Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm posting free Linux tutorials as videos, well obviously on here, but also with PDF notes. Well, some of them have PDF notes. Today I'm going to do install and configure Mint. And no notes with this, although there is a small text file which shows you how I do the configuration. Don't forget that I'm also posting my Linux command line for beginners and Windows users course, which is a 2-day classroom course that I've adapted to run as a set of videos. I'll soon be posting section 4 file commands. Before we start, I just say my plea again. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I've got over 100 subscribers now. If you subscribe, you get notifications of new videos. Still haven't got a lot of likes. I mean, it doesn't take long to like or not like the videos, and hardly any comments. Very disappointing. I'd like to know who's using Virtualbox or Linux or both and where you are, but you know, it does take a minute to post a comment. Feedback, questions and suggestions, you can email me, recommend me to your friends and on Facebook, and buy me a coffee. It costs a bit to do this sort of thing. Mostly it's effort. But there is an outlay. I've just bought a new laptop, new microphone, things like that. Anyway, I'll stop moaning, we'll get on with it. Install and configure Mint. We'll start with Virtualbox. I'm assuming that you've already got Virtualbox installed. I've got a couple of virtual machines here. CentOS 8 is the one that I'm using for the course. This one is Ubuntu. Multiboot. It boots Ubuntu and Mint. I'll post something later on how to multi-boot Windows 10 with Linux, because a lot of people seem to like that. So we start here with the installation by creating a new VM, which doesn't appear on the screen, does it? I think you can change what goes up there. The details of that. You get new. There we are. There's new. So what we were looking at there was snapshots. You can also look at your logs. If we go to details, however, we get new. If you can't find it there, it's probably up here. A new cloud VM. I've never tried that. It's interesting. So we'll go new. It picks up Windows by default. Of course it would, you know, that's what everybody uses, except the 4% of us who've got the sense to use Linux. Type Linux and it will know it's Linux, 64-bit. I mean, this is Mint 20. So we'll call it Mint 20. Click Next. I usually give it half the memory. This machine's only got 4 gig. Can't put any more in it, unfortunately. It's a lovely machine. It's a Lenovo IdeaPad. Click Next. So we're going to create a virtual hard disk now. If you've got an existing VM, you can use that, a .vdi file. We're going to create a new one. We're going to create it as a Virtualbox image. We're going to do it dynamically allocated, because then it doesn't take all the space at once, just as it's needed. And I don't know how much space we're going to use. 8 gig would probably do, but I might want to dual boot it with something, so I'm going to give it 20 gig. And that's where it's going to put it in my home user in Virtualbox VMs. Space is in the file name. You think they know better, wouldn't you? But it's all designed for Windows, isn't it? That's the trouble. So my advice is, if you're creating things on Linux, don't put spaces in file names. It's a daft thing to do. There's a space, so my virtual machine will go in here. There are the others. What you find in here is things like the VDI file, which you can save and port somewhere else if you want to. Although exporting a Virtualbox machine is probably a better idea, and you can do that from File, Export the Appliance. Maybe we'll do that at the end. Yeah, we'll do that at the end, and then what I'll do is I'll upload it to the classroom on iDrive, and you can download it and play with it if you want to. Right, the next thing we need to do is boot from an ISO. So we go to Storage, click on Empty, click over here, and I'm not sure that some of those might have been on USB drive, so I'm going to choose one from disk. This is my user, my ISO, folder, directory, and in there I've got Mint20. Okay, check it's in, it's there, click start. Once you've done that, you can close or shrink this if you want to. Now sometimes it comes up there with the hard drive, in which case you need to drop it down and find the ISO that you want. But it's picked the right one. So I click go, it will boot Linux Mint. I'll just pause it while it does that. There we are. Start Linux Mint. Right, so there it is up and running. It's made the screen bigger, which is nice. You can play with Mint here if you want to, just see how it works. So if you press the super key, you get the menu. You can look at applications and see what's there. We're not going to do that. We're going to double click here to do the install. So what we do first is choose a language, do it in English, but I'm going to do it in UK English, not US English. You can install this if you want to play video formats, but I'm not going to do that because we're running in VirtualBox. If I was doing it on a laptop, I would do that. It runs for a minute while it's doing this. Well, I put in another pause there because it takes a minute to do that. Now, if you're doing this and Linux Mint is all you want, you can just erase the disk and install. But suppose you're putting it on your laptop, it's already got Windows on it, it's got something else on it like a Ubuntu, sorry, you might want to do something else. So I'm going to do something else just to show you how it works. So I've got 20 gig to play with. So here I want to add a new partition. Now, you can't do that until you've created a partition table. So we create the partition table first, and that says things like if you're doing this, anything there, the current partition will be removed and you can't undo it. That's fine. Okay, now we've got free space. Click on the free space, click on plus, and we're going to create a root partition. There. Oh, I know we can do it this way, because if you do it this way, we can have a separate home partition. We'll give a root partition 10 gig, which will be enough. Be fine. So it creates that. Then back on the free space, to add a separate home partition, we click on the plus, and this time we mount it on home. You can have boot, maybe make it a gig. That's what I used to do. I made it a few hundred megs once and it ran out of room, because boot is where it stores the kernels. They can be quite big. You can use temp, which stores temporary files, USR, which stores software, var, which stores log files, print, that sort of thing, any of these. But the main two that people use are root and home. And the advantage of having your own home directory, that was 10 gig, I'm going to make it a gig. I'm not going to do much on here, that'll do. Is that if you reinstall Mint and put it back on the root directory, it doesn't touch your home directory. And one really neat thing is that if you're lucky, it'll remember all your customizations, all your changes to the background, how Windows behaves, things I'm going to show you how to do later on. I'm missing something. Does anybody know what I'm missing? I didn't install a swap area. I think if you stay install now, it'll tell me. No, it doesn't. So it's going to happily install without a swap area. Now, there's a lot of discussion in forums about whether you need a swap area or not. I usually add one the size of the memory. I've given this 2 gig memory, so I'll show you how to install the swap area. You can't click there, you've got to go to free space first, then click there, and swap is down here. Just out of interest, something else you might find you need Sometimes you need an EFI partition. If it complains that it wants one. There isn't one there, but sometimes it's there. Forget I said that. Right, there's a swap area. Like I said, I'm going to give it 2 gig. And if I were to put Ubuntu on this VM as well, it can share the swap partition with Mint. What I should have done, and what I would normally do, is put the swap partition first. If you do that and you want to make the home directory bigger, it's easier. You can stretch the home directory into the free space, but I can't do that now. But it's fairly easy. Delete the swap, stretch the home directory, put the swap back again. Right, and we're going to install. Now while it's installing, it tells you there that it's going to format these partitions. While it's installing, it asks you a few must questions. Where are you? So you click on the map, wherever you are. Continue. Who are you? You create your own user, so you can log in and do things like use sudo to run commands with root permissions. This is Lenovo. I like to log in with my initials and my password. I just use simple passwords like KDM123 when I'm building VMs. And away it goes. Now I'll pause it there because it's going to take a while to do this, and we'll come back when it finishes. Okay, it's finished now, so we press restart now and it will reboot. I think it actually takes the ISO out for you, although it says please remove and press enter. So press enter within the window. You won't see the grub unless there are multi versions, or you press the shift key when you boot up. That'll take a time to boot, so I'm going to freeze again and then log in. Password. You've got to have the mouse in the window, obviously, to get that to work. There we are, we're in. If it's in Virtualbox, it'll happily connect to your network. It's moaning about the video drivers, you can ignore that. It also comes up with this welcome to Linux Mint message, which I thought was going to make this full screen there. Here you can look at first steps, documentation, you can get help, you can contribute to the Mint project if you want to. The first steps include things like changing your panel, taking snapshots. I'll show you how to do those sorts of things. If you don't want to see that every time you log in, tick there, close that. There's Mint. I'm not going to make it full screen, but I will make it bigger. And you can do that. You can't do that, can you? Take that back. You can't do that because we haven't installed what are called the guest editions. So we've got a fixed size at the moment. Now, installing the guest editions is the first thing you should do after you've installed the operating system. You do it from devices. And the reason you do it is, well, one is sometimes you can't get the mouse in and out. If that's the case, press right control. Right control releases the mouse. It's your control key. But you can't use the left one, just right control. You'll also be able to resize the window, make it full screen. You can use shared folders if you've installed the guest editions. You can use the shared clipboard, which I can make bidirectional, and that allows you to copy things from the laptop into the VM and back again. I've never managed to make drag and drop to work, so I don't bother with that. Now, to install the guest editions, fairly simple. You click on the guest editions, it will mount the CD on the desktop. It's a sort of virtual CD. You run it as a root. Oh, that's interesting. I better plug that in. Give it your password, because you're running as the root user here. Now I'll just stop that because it will take a while to do that. I'll unplug the laptop. Whoops, didn't want that. And then when that's finished, you press return to close the window, and you can right click on that and eject it. What should we do next? The second thing we'll do is over here on the desktop, I've got files that I use in Linux. They're in Dropbox, data, course, Linux. So there I've got some files, some handouts, which I'll post in the classroom. In fact, I might have already done that. I'll have a look in a minute. Some images, so I can change the desktop. Some packages that I install. They're usually installed on CentOS, so they're RPMs which are used by CentOS, although you can use them in Mint. And some save stuff in there. So I want to copy some of those files into here. Now the easiest way to do that is go to Devices and set up a shared folder. So what you do is you find this folder, Linux, on here. Add a shared folder. It's the folder path. Click on Other. It's in KDM, Dropbox, Data, Course, and I'm going to map Linux. Choose. Now you don't want it to be read-only. Well, it can be if you don't want to change the files. But I might want to copy files from the VM out to the laptop. You need to auto mount, make it permanent, otherwise it won't be there. And you choose a mount point under root, and I usually just put Linux. I'll put lowercase there, it's spelt with uppercase, but it doesn't make any difference, it doesn't have to have the same name. And then you click OK. And OK. Now at this point, to make sure everything works, I must admit I usually reboot. But in theory, copy and paste will work from the shared clipboard, but I think you have to log out first to do that. So the quickest way to reboot from a VM is just shut it down like that, power it off. If you save the machine state, it will save it as it is and bring it back up as it is. I'll show you that later, but I'm just going to power it off. Quick shutdown, and then go back into Virtualbox. Now one nice thing you can do here, instead of opening Virtualbox and clicking Start, you can put a desktop shortcut on the desktop like that. So if we shrink, have a look at my tiger picture. That won Wildlife World Photographer of the Year competition. Down there. Now I don't need Virtualbox open. To start it up, just double click. And if you press the Shift key at that point, you get to see the Grub. You won't see the Grub otherwise because there's only one option, so it doesn't bother showing it to you. I'll press return and that will boot. I'll just freeze while it boots. If you're wondering why that keeps popping up, I'm freezing the menu with the super key and R, and sometimes it pops up the menu from the super key. I'll have to think about that, changing that. Alright, log back in. Now I'm going to set about customizing it. Now there is a file which I use for this because it's easier than making it all up again. Right, we don't want that. Oh, actually, before we do that, better make sure what I said worked, don't we? Well, we'll find the file over here. The file is in Classroom Ad Hoc, and it's called Install Configurement PDF. This will be on the ice drive, so you can take it to play with if you want to. Make that a bit bigger. So this is how I configure, or some of how I configure. There are some other things I do which I left out. How I configure Linux Mint. So let's see if copy and paste works. So provided you've got the clipboard set, you can open the terminal. Now, one of the things I don't like about Mint is if you open the terminal here, it opens in the desktop. I don't want to be in the desktop, I want to be in a home directory. So I open the terminal from here. That's better. Now I'm in the home directory. So one of the first things you do is update and upgrade the system. I'm not going to go into what that does. I'll do another post on installing packages later. And here we can paste that. And if we run that, it'll ask for your password. You run it as sudo so that you've got root permissions, your own password. We didn't create root, so we don't have a root password in effect. Now this takes a while to run, but it does ask you yes or no whether you want to continue. So we'll leave it to run till it gets to that point perhaps. There we go, and I'll say no. That might take 10-15 minutes to run that. That's the first thing you can do. Secondly, I install bits of software. Now these things are what I use on the course that I'm running, the Introduction for Beginners course, in the CentOS VM. So I'm going to read them here. So they are simple things like Vim. Oh, that's a theme. I like the dark theme. So that when you open things like, hang on, when I open Nemo to look at the files, I get a dark theme. I don't get a white screen glaring at me. So I'm going to install the dark theme and show you that. Vim, the editor, and these, that displays messages, that displays messages, that displays messages, and that just gives you a steam locomotive driving across the screen. So a bit silly, but an example of how you install packages. So here, press return. Yes, we want to install them. That will go away and install the packages. Over here, I also install these things. Comoso is webcam software. Simple Screen Recorder is what I'm using to record this. In fact, if you want to see where it's running, if I change work places to 4, this is Simple Screen Recorder running. I can pause the recording by pressing Super R or clicking on pause recording, and I'm compiling a stack of little bits and pieces there which I'll paste together later. I'm going to make a video on how to do that as well. Audacity allows you to edit your videos. This one, this is a terminal. What it does, it sits waiting for you to press F12. Whoops, sorry, not F12 there. Let's do that again, go away. No, that's brightness. There we go. And this is a terminal. I really like this. You just press F12 and it goes back up again. You configure it by right-clicking and going to Preferences. You can do things like split the screen. Split it that way, split the screen that way. I've got 3 terminals now. One there, one here, and one there. It's very nice. And you just hide it again with F12. I can never remember on this machine whether I need to press function F12 or just F12. That's F12. This is finished now. So back here, I install those. If you're using a laptop, this thing is quite good. This conserves battery power. It's a battery saver. So you add a repository, and then you do an apt update and apt install. You do all that on one line, 2 commands separated by a semicolon. Check it and start it up. I think for one of those you will have to press quit. And the other thing I'm going to do here is add a new user, because I want to set this up so that we can use it for the course. Now the course uses the user KenM, so this adds you a new user using user add. -M says create the directory if it doesn't exist. -D says use the directory home KenM. -C puts a comment, and -S is the bash shell. Some of those you could default, like the bash shell, but I do it like that. Paste. That's adding me a new user. Then to change the password for that user, sudo password, the password command for KenM, and the password for, can't spell, KenM. Password for KenM is KenM. And then if I switch into KenM, I can install the files that we were using with this wget, which is there. Make sure you copy it all. Oh, did I put a password in? Getting ahead of myself here. Nope, made a mess of that. Let's do it again. There we go. So you get warts and all of my courses. Make sure you get as far as the tar xvz, and then that will install the files. There we go. So clear the screen, do an ls. KenM has now got FPT. Change directory into FPT. If you've been on the course, you'll know that I now move all the files in here up into the home directory, and you can do that with move * space ... If you want to know what that did, come on the course if you haven't done it. CD back to home directory, do an ls, there are all the files. Get rid of the empty directory FPT, like that. And that's looking good. There's one other thing I like to do, which is, I'll show you it in Nano. Nano, if I edit the setup file .bashrc, go down to the bottom and add here a line that says PS1 equals single quote $PWD. Again, if you've not done this, come on the course, it's in section 3. What it does, it changes the prompt. I also like to clear the screen with the character C, and I forget it's not there, so I keep typing C. Now you save that in Nano with Control and X, yes, save the buffer, same file name, and then you can execute that file with the dot command. Again, if this is baffling, oh, I made a mess of that, come on the course, it's all explained. If you've done the course, hopefully it makes sense. Down the bottom, I'm not sure, I can do it in Vim, obviously, but I don't know how you jump to the bottom in Nano. I missed a quote out there, look, there's an @ sign there instead of a quote. So delete that character and insert a quote. That's better, it's changed colours now. Control and X, yes, bashrc, run it like that, and the prompt's changed, and I can clear the screen. That's better. That's what I like. So there's Linux Mint set up to run the course. Now I'm going to do a few other things to show you. Let's come out of the terminal. Come out of the terminal like that. Control and D gets you out of the terminal. There we go. I don't like these on here. They're too big for a start. So if I customize the desktop, I usually say I'd like smaller. And I don't like them auto-arranged either, so I turn that off. And the other things I change is things in the panel, the background, that sort of thing. Now, I haven't got any images to put on the background. Well, there are some there. I mean, you can go change the desktop background and look at, there's no pictures on here. There are various horrible images. I don't want one of those. I don't much like those. So what I do instead is I copy things across. Now this file here, no, not that file, shrink that for a minute. The file in Dropbox under data, course, what's in Linux. I said we wanted these files in here, so we've set up, have we not, a shared folder. Right, we've used the clipboard. Now to use a shared folder, what you do, actually now we've got guest additions in, probably find we can happily make this bigger now, like that. There we go. That's a bit big. And take it back again. Well, it's much better with the guest additions on. That's too big. I want to change that. So we'll look at how to do that in a minute. But I'm going to copy the files across first using that shared folder. Now you do this in a, or I do this in a terminal. But you need to be root. You can do it with sudo, but it's a bit of an effort doing that. If I do a df, there is Linux. Actually, I prefer df-h, because you get things in human readable sizes then. So there's Linux there. Now, we could attempt to look at it, but we don't have permissions. So what I normally do, open another tab there and switch into root. Now, as I said earlier, we don't have a root password because we didn't set one up. So what do? What you do is you do sudo password, no username, so it assumes you're putting in the password for root. I use root123 when I'm, oh, that should have been my password, I beg your pardon. That's the new password, root123, and confirm root123. Now I can switch into root. Root123. There we are. There's probably nothing in there. No, there isn't. But if we do a df, there's Linux. Now we can do an ls slash Linux. And if we want some of the files, we could copy them. So for instance, I could cd, the way I do it normally, change directory into Linux files, do an ls. I could copy any of those files up a level. If I want to copy directories, I could do that actually. If I cd back one, there, I can, now I'm here, I could copy, if it's directories you're copying, you need -r. Again, this is all on the course. Files to my home directory, which is tilde. And I wanted some images, didn't I? So I could copy image as well. Up. That'll do, I think. No, I've got to see in here. There we go. So there are files and image on here, and I'm hoping what we can do now is, if we open files, actually I don't think we'll be able to do this. I don't think we'll have permissions. Oh, that's not files, is it? That one's files. Sorry about that. Oh, I don't like that. I usually edit the preferences and change the default view to list view. Icons doesn't tell you anything, tell you about the files at all. It's just pictures. It's for Windows users. That's better. Now I know what they are what's in them, how big they are and when they were created. But of course this is in the user KDM, so I don't have the image that I want. But one simple way around that would be to in the terminal find the image that you want. So go to image. One easy way to share it without changing permissions is pick an image. What should we have? Let's have Fox2. Let's copy Fox2 to TMP, which is temporary directory which anyone can use. Then we can go back in here as Ken again and copy TMP Fox2 into my home directory, the current directory I'm in. Still doesn't want to do it because we haven't got permissions on it. Let's stop there. I think we'll... Sorry, I should have thought this through, shouldn't I? What we need to do is, having copied it there, what we'll do is we will change the permissions on TMP Fox to 644, which gives it general permissions for people to read it, again covered on the course. Just bear with me for a minute. We can always look up permissions. Now we can copy it. There we go. And now we can open it in files. There, right click on that and set it as wallpaper. There we go. That's better. You get the fox. So that's one way of changing the image on the screen and changing those. Now the other things I do are in the, let's shrink that a bit, are in the PDF file. So if we go back to the PDF file, which I think I've still got open somewhere. There it is. Right. So we got as far as there. Settings. Okay, themes. I like the dark theme. You change the settings by right clicking on the panel, System Settings. Go to Themes and you can change any of the themes here. So change Windows borders. You get whatever's there. I'm going to choose Arch Dark. Change the icons. I usually choose something like a dark colour, but I'll just go for blue. Change the controls. Again, there's Arch Dark. And I leave the mouse as white. There, it's gone dark. And I change the desktop to Arch Dark as well. That's much nicer. Now, when you open files, it's dark. It's lovely. Now, the other things you can change in settings, or the other things I change, desklets. If you're a little clock sitting on the desktop, see my clock up there, what you do is you go back rather than closing it, and I usually work my way along here. So desklets first, and you can add other desklets. You can download different desklets. General settings, not sure what's in there. I just add a clock. Now what it does, it sticks a clock on here. But it's a big clock. We don't want that. A little clock. So right click on it, configure it, and I find that 13 as a font size is usually pretty good. There we go. And I put my little clock up there. Up there. Go on, in the corner. We can say close that. And go back to settings. Here, go back one. Where are we? The panel. If you want to configure the panel, my panel down here is hidden. You do that by choosing panel or right clicking on the panel and choosing panel settings, the same thing. So the panel, there you can always hide the panel, sorry, auto hide it. I thought there was an always hide. Yeah, that one hides it. That one intelligently hides it. You can change the panel height if it's too tall. Like that. Changes the size of the icons. You can change the panel appearance. I don't usually do with that. Startup. If you want something to start up, like the thing I mentioned that pops down from the top, that one, GUAKE, what you do is you go to Startup Applications and you add the application. Choose your application, go down here and choose the application EFG. It's not there, didn't I install it? I didn't install it, did I? Beg your pardon. If I had installed it, I could install it. If I had installed it, I could pick it up there, click on Add Application, that would do it. What else? Windows, I change a couple of things in Windows. The behaviour. I like the window focus to be on mouse rather than on click. I'll leave it on click for in here, but my Windows, you see it changes focus as I move the mouse. I don't have to click there. Location of newly opened windows, rather than centre, I've got mine set to follow the cursor. So if I want to open something, leave that as centre for the moment. If we go to Workspace 3, if I wanted to open, no, it's not going to do that, is it? Because I've already got it open there. Here, if I wanted to open, no, that's opened in the middle as well. Oh, come on. Must be an easy way of showing you this. If I close that and go back to 3 again, and the cursor's there, and I open files, we just close that. Why is it opening that side? It's not clever. It's supposed to open over there. Oh, I know. Let's open a terminal. Put the cursor over there. Terminal opens over there. That's it. It's a better example. So that's what that does. But I'm not going to change that within here. What else? Keyboard. I change keyboard shortcuts. Again, there's something else I'm not going to do in here. So here, for instance, if I want to change workspaces, what I do is to switch to workspace 1, I use, and there I press Control and 1. And then I can use Control and 1 to switch to workspace 1. And the way I've got it set, I can go between 1, 2, 3 and 4 by pressing Control 1, 2, 3 or 4. And lastly, on my laptop, I don't want it to go to sleep. I don't like it suspended. I do nothing. That's not an option there. On mine, the option is, no, that's not the right one, is it? Oh, it's different. Okay, ignore that. I'll show you that on my laptop. That'll do, I think. We're configuring it on here. Let's shrink that for a minute. If I get down to the panel here and on the laptop, we look at system settings. If we go to keyboard and look at shortcuts, and look at workspaces, I change workspaces. That's weird because I do change workspaces. I thought they'd be sitting there. Stand that. But I just showed you that. Let me show you power management. No, that's different. There we go. I prefer to do nothing when the lid is closed. Some people like to suspend or shut down, whatever. I also keep this on R, so if I press the power button, it says, do you want to shut down? Do you want to suspend? Whatever, you have a choice there. So if I press power off now, it comes up like that. I can shut down and restart. Okay, let's go back to configuration. It's not the configuration, that's configuration here. It's nice that you can make the screen bigger because I can't see the end of this here for some reason. Where's it gone? It's annoying. There we go. Shut that down. Not sure I like the fox. He's a bit in your face, isn't he? Oh, the clock. Obviously it should be in the corner, but it depends on the size of the window. What else can we do from here? Right, I usually install Dropbox. If you want to install some software, press the super key or go to menu. Super key is the one with the windows on it, and go to administration, software manager, and here you can install, well, it depends what's in there, all sorts of things. I like to install the Opera browser. I don't know if it's in there actually, but you can search for things like that. So it's searching the software repositories to see what's there. It hasn't found it, but Dropbox is there. So if you're not familiar with the command line, it's probably the first place to go when you want to install something. It's very easy. You just click on that, click on install. I'm not going to install it on here because I don't want it running on here. Looks to me like I'm going to need a bigger screen to be able to shut that down, doesn't it? Oh, actually, there's an easy one. Oh, there we go, it's gone. And then I like to pin things on here as well on the panel. The way you do that, so my example here says let's have Firefox, so there's Firefox. Nemo, well there's Nemo for files, I like that there. And then I can open it with Super 2, which is neat. I can open Firefox with Super 1. That'll take a bit longer. Firefox is a bit slow, which is why I use Opera. I did try Brave, but I had a problem with Brave. The machine crashed, and when Brave came back up, it had lost all my bookmarks. So I stopped using it. So we've got those three. The other things you might want to pin here that are neat. I like to pin TextEdit. So what you do is you go find TextEdit, which is just a simple editor, and add it to the panel. And the other one I like is Screenshot. You can add anything to the panel you want to. Add to the panel. Text editor is just a simple text editor. Screenshot takes a screenshot. But what's nice about it is you can grab the current window or you can select an area. So if I want the fox's head, there we go. Picture of the fox's head. And then just give it a name. And it will save it in pictures. I mean, I'm not averse to using the GUI, although all this stuff is about the command line really. And the courses I do, I use the GUI all the time. So here in pictures is fox's head. You can do some neat things here actually. If you've got something you often go to, you can pin it here, but if you don't want something here that you don't use, you can remove it. So we're unlikely to be removing music or videos on the course we're going to be doing, so I can take them off. If I wanted to add one, you just drag it. So if I put music back again, just drag it, drop it there. Last thing, right, if you're multi-booting, you might want to customize the Grub. If there's only one operating system on the machine, I mean the Grub's still there, but you don't see it unless you press the shift key when you boot, and you wouldn't choose to customize it. If we open the terminal here, which I can do with Super 3, and we edit this file with sudo because it's these root permissions. So we can copy that, paste it here, password. The main things I change are the default operating system that it will boot. So if it's multi-boot and it does Mint and then Ubuntu, Mint is 0, Ubuntu would be 1. And the timeout, the time it takes, the time you're given to choose one operating system or the other. If you've not seen that, I could show you that actually. If we go to and open this one, which multi-boots, probably slow down a bit if we open them both at the same time, but we're only interested in the Grub. There we go. I get time there to choose Mint or Ubuntu. Like I said, Mint is 0. You have to be careful. Ubuntu is not 1. As I said, Ubuntu is 2. 0. You saw that one. 2. I'll power that off. Shut that down. Go back where we were. Okay, so in this case I'm not going to change them, but if we did change them, what you do, actually it's just occurred to me you might not want to change them in Vi either. That's not a very good idea. I'll change the PDF file because you'd be much better off unless you know how to use Vi. If you don't know how to use Vi, don't do it in Vi. Come on the course and learn how to use Vi. Do it in Nano, which I showed you earlier. Control X comes out. So I will change that in a minute. If you do change the Grub, the next thing you do is you run that. Oh God. Easy way to, I hate using the mouse for these sort of things. It's much easier if you do it with the keyboard. If you put the mouse there, why won't it go there? Doesn't seem to be anywhere. Alright, try again. I've got to type it in by now. Yay. There we go. Copy. Paste. And that will update the Grub. And what it does, it goes around and it searches the disk for how many operating systems it can find. So if you're dual booting Windows and Linux, you always put Windows on first, and then Linux will find Windows and automatically update the Grub. If you put Linux on first and then put Windows on, Windows won't find Linux. You'll only get Windows. If you ever break the Grub, and I'm doing a post on this as well soon, you can run Grub install and put it back on your first disk, second disk, whatever, and then run update Grub. So I need to change that, which I will do. Actually, if you want to see how it works, I'll change it now. I go in my classroom, in this folder, I've got the base files. So there's Configurement. And this is LibreOffice, if you haven't used it, which is a bit like Microsoft Office, but free. There's Vi there. So if I change this to Nano and save it, I'm still saving things in an old format. I can click up here and export it directly as a PDF file. And then copy the PDF into this directory, which is where I keep the PDFs. I replace the old one, open the new one, make it a bit bigger. There we go. And now it says Nano. And that's the one that I'll upload. Okay. Shut things down a bit here. That's the end of this video. Installing and configure Mint. My next foray, my next video will be file commands. So, come and see me then. Please read this screen and like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Buy me a coffee if you want to. But I'll see you next time for file commands. Bye bye.